Hi, everybody, and welcome to Observing with Webb, where a high school astronomy teacher tells you what you're looking at, why it's so cool, and what you should check out later this month at night. We're coming up on a late June edition. School has been crazy. This is technically the last day of school that I'm recording this in the morning. Let's see if I can edit and export it in the same day. Anyway, so here's what we got for June. June will be warmer. We've got some shorter nights, but still some really good events. We'll be watching for Mercury and Mars in a conjunction mid-month. Jupiter will be up all night long, and there will also be some good lunar close encounters. So let's get started with the planets. Then we'll move on to the events, and then some constellation talk. All right, here we go. Okay, so in summary, for the naked eye planets, around sunset, you're going to have Mars in the west until around 10:30, and Mercury in the west until about 10 p.m. They're sort of there together. Throughout the night, you're going to have Jupiter and Saturn moving from the southeast to the southwest. And in the morning, you should still be able to see Saturn and Jupiter, but they're going to be in the southwest at that point. So let's look at it right now. Let's take a look at something that's going to happen tonight, June 5th. June 5th, you're going to have a really cool lineup of Mercury, Mars, and the Moon. In fact, let me make that a little darker. You can tell that it's going to be kind of hard to see because Mercury is pretty dim and low on the horizon, so you need a very big view of the horizon. And Mars is up here. You can still see it, but dawn is sort of dusk is getting in the way, but the moon will be up here, a very thin crescent. So hard to see, but not impossible to see. So get a good place where you can see the whole horizon, maybe from a hilltop, that sort of thing. Okay? But anyway, let me go back to the whole idea of the planets. Now you see Mars and Mercury right there on June 5th. Let's see what happens throughout the month. So you have to get out after sunset to see these. And what you notice is that Mercury and Mars get closer and closer together, okay? And then they get just about, there we go. On the 18th is when they get as close as they're going to be, less than 1 degree. I'm going to talk about that again. But there's Mercury and Mars right next to each other, and Mercury passes, and now Mercury is higher than Mars. It's pretty much at this point where you're not going to be able to see them. So if you want to see Mars or Mercury, the first 3 weeks of the month are the time to see that. Okay? So Mercury and Mars off in the south or off in the west, only until about 9:30, 10 p.m., that sort of time period. Okay? All right, so let's talk about, well, let's see. We talked about Mercury. What about the next planet, Venus? Well, unfortunately, Venus is not really visible. You might be able to catch it if you have binoculars pointing east-northeast about an hour before sunrise. Very low on the horizon, but I don't even think I'm going to be doing that. So I'm not going to cover it too much here. So we got Mars, we got Mercury. Let's talk about Jupiter and Saturn. Right, so let's back up and let's take a look at the entire night sky. And let's just go for the middle of the month. That's a good average, June 15th. In fact, actually, let's go a couple days earlier just to get the moon out of the way. But there you go. There is Jupiter off in the southeast. Now, Jupiter is reaching opposition this month. So that means it's off in the southeast right after sunset. It's directly in the south around midnight, 1 a.m. And then it sets in the southwest around sunrise. So what you'd notice is, as I move the time forward, Jupiter passes around. Oh, hey, look, there's Saturn too. So Saturn is rising between 11 p.m. at the beginning of the month and 9 p.m. at the end of the month. So you still have to wait to see Saturn. And it'll be about 30 degrees to the left of Jupiter basically all month. Okay, it's hanging out in the top left of Sagittarius, which makes it a really cool target since that's basically where the Milky Way is, or a good portion of the Milky Way is. But anyway, yeah, if you're up any time of the night, this is good, especially if it's early. Now, the cool thing about Saturn is when you zoom in on it, we've got some really cool rings going on right now where they are just absolutely gorgeous and as big as the planet itself in our perspective. Yeah. All right, well, those are essentially the planets. So, again, Mars and Mercury around sunset, and throughout the night you've got Jupiter and Saturn. So go ahead and take your telescope out, see if you see those Galilean moons of Jupiter and those rings of Saturn. So as far as the moon goes this month, we've got a new moon on the 3rd, which means right about now we're getting a nice thin crescent moon June 5th. The first quarter moon will be the 10th. That's when it's up in the sky, directly up in the sky around sunset, and it's visible until about midnight. Then it gets bigger and bigger until the full moon on the 17th, and then the last quarter moon is on the 25th. So we get some dark skies back at that point. Now again, as far as events go, we have that close encounter, or not conjunction, but close encounter of Mars and Mercury at, let's see, sunset. Okay, tonight we got to look toward the west, almost northwest. And, whoops, there you go. You notice the moon, Mars, and Mercury making a really nice lineup in the sky. Okay, so go ahead and check that out. On the 16th, so now we're actually going about 2 weeks into the future. On the 16th, you get a nice close encounter. Well, Mars and Mercury are getting close together. We actually want to look at the other side. Oh, there we go. There is the moon and Jupiter. In fact, let me go a little bit into the night. Okay, you'll see the moon and Jupiter off in the southeast, and they'll be kind of close together. Okay, right there, moon and Jupiter. Basically, from the 16th to the 19th, though, it's not just the moon and Jupiter because, hold on, let's go a little bit deeper into the night. And oh, there's Saturn there too. So watch what happens over the total of 4 nights, right? So after sunset, and let's see, on the 16th, the moon will only be about 4 degrees down and to the left of Jupiter. And what you do is you can actually watch them travel from southeast to southwest throughout the night. But on the next night, the moon is going to be, well, pretty much right in between Jupiter and Saturn, a little bit closer to Saturn. And then on the 18th, the moon will be very close to Saturn. Okay. In fact, it's looking like it's going to be 1 degree below. And if you zoom in to adjust for the size, right, you have an almost full moon, and really not that far above it is Saturn. Then on the 19th, the moon is sort of moved away, but you still have this nice trail of beautiful objects with Jupiter, Saturn, and the moon. The moon will probably wash out some of Sagittarius and Scorpius, but they're still there to take a look at. Now, wait a second. You saw that Mars and Mercury were close together, and I totally flew by that. Why? Because on my script, the Jupiter, Moon, Saturn thing is first. So let me go back. Let's go back to the west, and let's go to sunset. And, oh wait, there's Mars and Mercury again. And I sort of mentioned this before, but if you're looking at Mars and Mercury, okay, from the 16th to the 19th is actually a really good time to check it out, okay? In fact, let me go just a little bit into the night so you can see how low they are around dusk. But anyway, there's Mars and Mercury. And so what you're going to find on the 16th, Mercury is to the right and Mars is to the left. And then what we do is the next night, Mercury and Mars are closer together. And then on the 18th, they are the closest that they are going to be. Less than 1 degree apart. In fact, you can't even really resolve them up here. But Mars and Mercury are going to be very close together. And if you can see them with binoculars, I bet binoculars are going to be what you need. But go ahead, take a look, see if you can find them. It's surprising how cool it is to see 2 planets in one very small speck of sky. And then June 19th, Mercury keeps passing Mars, and it's going to keep going ahead for the rest of the month. But really, the 18th is the best time to get out there. After that, it's pretty much too hard to actually see them. Lastly, we have on the 21st, the summer solstice, the longest day of the year and the shortest night. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the month of June as far as the events go. So let's talk a little bit about some constellations. All right, let's talk about some constellations after dinner, but before bed, and then before work. We're going to talk about some constellations that are actually pretty high up in the sky, so it helps to get your bearings here. So let's start by talking about the Big Dipper, okay? So if you gaze kind of northwest and then almost straight up, see that red dot? That's your zenith point, the point directly above you, the observer. But really what you want to look for is the Big Dipper. Now the Big Dipper is pretty easy to find. You've got 7 wonderfully bright stars. I think this is the easiest asterism to find in the night sky, but it's there. It's 7 bright stars with a nice little handle here, okay? And now what you can do is find those 7 bright stars, and then take the handle of the Dipper and follow that arc to Arcturus, the brightest star in Bootes, the Shepherd. Now, I think it looks more like a kite or an ice cream cone, but there you go. That's one thing you can do. And then, let me just readjust this a little bit. If you follow the arc to Arcturus, you can then speed on to Spica, which is the brightest star in Virgo. This is a great constellation. I like it mostly because when I look at it, I see a Dickinson mermaid, but people see all kinds of different things in the stars, so no one is technically correct. All right? So there we go. You've got follow the arc to Arcturus and speed on to Spica, 2 classic ways of looking around the constellations. Now, let's go back to Bootes, though, or Bootes, okay? You've got that, and if you move a little bit to the left, you'll see Corona Borealis, okay? Corona Borealis, which it doesn't do all of the stars here, but it's basically 7 bright stars that make sort of a C or a cup shape in the sky. And then to the left of that is Hercules. And now, if you have binoculars, you should be able to find in Hercules a wonderful cluster, which is not appearing on my screen right now, but somewhere right about in here. A beautiful cluster of stars called M13. Oh, hey, there it is. M13 is called the Hercules cluster, right? And it's just a gorgeous collection of stars that this isn't even doing enough justice to it right now. But best globular cluster in the northern skies. It'll be a fuzzy spot in binoculars, maybe something like that. But then in a telescope, you can actually see hundreds of stars in there. So anyway, so if you're going out before you go to bed, you want to look for the Big Dipper. Follow the arc to Arcturus, speed on to Spica, turn left for Corona Borealis, and find Hercules up there as well. Now, if you're going to go out before work, though, that's a slightly different calculation. So let's go to sunrise, but then let's go back about an hour and look to see what's up there. Now, I'd say in the morning, this is a good time to find your preview of the summer constellations. And you've got a summer triangle up here. And the summer triangle is the 3 brightest stars in the summer sky. And they are the 3 brightest stars of 3 constellations. The first one I like to talk about is Lyra the Harp. Okay, it has the brightest star here, which is known as Vega. Okay, now Vega is super bright, and it's also got this parallelogram shape right next to it. I think it's a very beautiful collection of stars. And then almost directly above you, if you look almost straight up, you'll see Cygnus the Swan up here. Now, Cygnus the Swan has the brightest star, Deneb. It will look like a large cross. Now, if you look out just a little bit further, you can sort of see some other stars here that make really beautiful wings and the neck of Cygnus, which is just really cool. And if you have binoculars or a telescope, you can zoom in on this star right here, which is Alberio, which this is not very photorealistic, but it's a blue and a red star, a blue and an orange star, which just contrast very much with each other and just show the difference between the different colors of stars. But that is Alberio. Okay, And lastly, in that little collection, you've got Aquila the Eagle down here with the brightest star Altair. And that's supposed to look like an eagle. I don't know that it looks like an eagle. But now, these three bright stars often get confused for Orion's belt because they're three fairly evenly spaced stars. However, they're not evenly spaced. And you notice that these two are not quite off. They're a little bit off center, right? So this is not Orion's belt, even though it looks like it. But anyway, also, you've got Delphinus and Sagitta in there to make it even a little more interesting. But yeah, get your little preview of the summer skies if you're up getting the trash out at 4:30 in the morning. But anyway, that pretty much summarizes June of 2019. Don't forget to check out my Podbean page, mrwebb.podbean.com. My YouTube channel is Mr. Webb PV, and also my Twitter feed, Mr. Webb PV. And you can find this as a podcast on Stitcher and iTunes. Also, the PV Planetarium has some a Twitter and Instagram and a Facebook. Just look up PV Planetarium on any of those, and you'll see the planetarium's fun stuff. So with that, I'd like to wish you very clear, dark skies for the month of June.